And now we'll introduce Dr. Jeff Pettis and Miss Tony Burnham, and Dr. Pettis is the director of the Bee Research Lab of the USDA Bee Research Lab facility here in Washington, D.C. And Tony is the Washington Youth Garden beekeeper. And she's also donated some of the hives here at the Washington Youth Garden. So we thank you both for being here today, and also our students from Center City School. So Dr. Pettis, how did you get interested in bees?
I started out as a biologist, then a little more specialization in studying insects, entomology. But once I took a honeybee course in college, I was hooked. That was it. And like Tony, I think many of us, once you're exposed to the fascinating world of bees, their biology, what we can do with them, et cetera, you become hooked. And I've done it for 25 years now, mostly some beekeeping and bee research. So yeah.
Well, it looks like you have lots of really interesting things to show us today. So what are some of the things you'll be sharing with us?
Well, we're going to start by just talking a little bit about how humans and bees have interacted, a little bit of history.
Okay.
Then we'll transition, we'll talk about bee biology, some of the fascinating things about their social life. And then we'll conclude with a little bit about colony collapse disorder and also a bigger issue of pollinator decline. So we'll have three different parts, if you will. The first thing is about how humans have associated with bees. We go way back. We go way back in time. There are cave paintings in Spain where they show humans robbing hives for honey and wax. And that was, our association was kind of built on wax and honey. These two products of the hive, if you will, were the reasons humans became associated with bees. So beeswax, think about candle making. Also honey, you think about back when we were a long time ago hunting and gathering. If you ran across a hive, it was a great resource. You could get honey and wax from one resource. We kind of transitioned from hunting and gathering to trying to manage them a bit more. And as we did that, we began to understand their biology a bit more. But in reality, we neglected the pollination service that they do, which is actually the most important thing. But so our association with bees really began back when we were robbing them, and then transitioned into where we think we know how to manage them. And that is beginning to understand their biology and the services that they do.
So we're working with them now.
We're working with them a bit now. And honeybees in particular, their importance lately has grown in agriculture. As we grow larger and larger field sizes and crops, we need a mobile pollinator. So honeybees are just that. The other native bees that you hear about, often they're solitary and they're not mobile. So honeybees are good generalists. They don't specialize on one particular type of plant, and they're also mobile. Also, a single hive may have up to 40,000 individuals. So that's a big workforce. And again, the mobility in the workforce, they really come into play in agricultural pollination. For the biology part, we think of a hive of 40,000 individuals. There's only one queen in there. There's a number of drones, the males, maybe up to 2,000 in the summer. But they get kicked out in the fall. They're couch potatoes. They don't do a whole lot. But the queen and the workers are doing all the work. The queen in there is an egg laying machine. She'll lay up to 2,000 eggs a day. My goodness. So she's just really the heart of the hive. But the hive that you see here is only about 1/10 the size of a normal hive. This is a small hive compared to a normal 40,000 hive that we'd manage for pollination. What I want to show you is these are the two hive products, but what we do as beekeepers is we give them a frame. Beekeepers give them a frame, like this wooden frame. The bees begin to eat nectar from the flowers, and they begin to secrete wax, and they start to build a piece of comb like that. And so you go from something like that, which is pure beeswax, to something like this. And
quite a construction.
Yeah, they're great engineers. They build it without any blueprint. You come up with this nice cell size. They use those cells for everything. They raise the young in there, the queens lay eggs, and then they have specialized areas where they store the honey, and they also store pollen in there. But this is what humans have done, again, harvesting some wax and harvesting the honey. So what I'd like to do now is just take an opportunity to taste the honey.
And all I'll take that so you can taste some honey too.
What we do, the bees bring in nectar from the flowers, and it has high moisture content. They store it, they begin to evaporate the moisture out, and once that's down to a low moisture content, they seal it over with wax. It can last forever. And what we have to do is we have to break that seal. And you see the honey come out? And then we can taste that honey.
You can do it too, David.
Try it, David. Tony, yeah. Tony, get in there.
That's good.
It's good stuff. Also, honey is a very fascinating food in that it requires no refrigeration. The high sugar content, the high sugar content, you don't have to refrigerate it. It's a naturally stable at room temperature. So again, honey and beeswax have been the primary things that we've used bees for, but the pollination realm has really come into as agriculture got larger and larger. The importance of pollinators has become more and more important. One other thing about just the hive itself as a superorganism, you've got 40,000 individuals and a queen and some drones. There's a lot of communication that goes on in the hive. There's a lot of communication that goes on in the hive. And so the beekeeper, because this communication, sometimes we excite them or get them excited. We use a trick that we've known for thousands of years to manage the hives. And that trick is with smoke. We use smoke. If a bee gets alarmed and comes out and stings the beekeeper.
I'm gonna hold this.
So if the beekeeper is stung, what happens is the stinger goes in, and then there's an alarm pheromone, a perfume that's given off. And what that says is, this is an intruder. And other sisters come and attack that spot. So what you really want to do is you want to get rid of that odor. And we do that with smoke. So it's just, it's again, in the cave paintings in Spain, they showed people using smoke for thousands of years. And so what Tony is doing is lighting the smoker. We're pretending I've just been stung.
And then how do you remove the stinger?
The stinger with your fingernail or some flat with scraping thing. If you actually take and try to grab it, you're injecting more venom.
Ooh,
so never grab it. Always scrape the stinger out. Now, Tony, I've just been stung. Please, yeah. Oh, calm down. Yeah.
First things first, right?
The smoke. Well, the smoke does a couple of things. The smoke masks that alarm pheromone. The other thing it does, in nature, the reason bees become calm is that if we smoke this hive, they actually go to the honey and they start drinking a lot of honey. We say engorge. They engorge on honey, get really full, and they're real lethargic, and so they don't sting as much. What we think that does in nature is that engorgement is a defense mechanism. If they smell a wildfire, they're going to have to abandon the hive. So smelling smoke, they engorge and they become docile. So just a few of the things about bee biology. So just quick transition into colony collapse disorder, something that's been in the news of late. Colony collapse disorder is a phenomenon that happens where beehives depopulate. The bees die away from the hive. It's something that's happening in North America, but actually a greater concern is worldwide pollinators are in decline. Birds, bats, bees, butterflies, I think of them the 4 Bs. A lot of different pollinators are declining. So if we understand those mechanisms, maybe we can help the honeybees as well as the other pollinators that are out there.
So one of the things that we can do is plant to create like corridors or pathways.
The more diversity we have in the landscape, whether locally or in farm fields and everything else, the better you're going to have pollinator diversity and abundance. So, yeah.
Native plants, would that be helpful?
Native plants are great. Also just a diversity of plants.
Diversity
of plants
okay.
and protecting that habitat through less disruption.